Hello, my name is Leanne Harkins, and I'm going to be talking to you today about Alzheimer's disease. So, my goal is to not only provide you some general knowledge about Alzheimer's disease, but also present you with a case study, like a what if scenario, what I would do if someone with the disease came to me and was looking for an exercise prescription. So, those are the two things that I'm aiming to achieve today. So, I'm going to start off with just some facts about Alzheimer's disease. So, for those of you who don't know, Alzheimer's disease is a form of dementia. It is by far the most prevalent form of dementia, making up for about 50 to 80% of all dementia cases. It is a progressive disease, so meaning that it's going to affect you over time. It doesn't all happen at once. It's a slow progression. Can take years. So it's a slow progression, and it is a decline in physical functioning and cognitive functioning. So cognitive functioning, we're thinking like memory and reasoning and learning and processing information and all of that. Physical functioning is anything as simple as walking up the stairs or brushing your teeth. We'll see both of those types of functioning will be affected in Alzheimer's disease. So it affects about 5.4 Americans, and it is the sixth leading cause of death overall and the fifth leading cause of death in adults over the age of 65. So some pathophysiology about Alzheimer's disease, kind of sort of like what's going on in the brain. So with normal aging in anyone, we'll see more production of plaques and tangles in the brain happening. But in an Alzheimer's brain, there is so much more than normal of these plaques and tangles being produced. And this excess production of these tangles and plaques will block any communication between our nerve cells. So when they can't communicate, they're going to start dying off, and these cells dying off is why we see this decline in our functioning. This process will begin in the hippocampus, and it will slowly move up toward the frontal regions of the brain. So I have this picture next to here, right on here, and I think it's actually a really cool picture comparing the healthy brain and an Alzheimer's brain. So it's obvious that this brain just kind of looks like it's decaying compared to the normal brain. It just definitely looks like it's dying off and just kind of like struggling to continue. And then another thing that I thought was really cool was on the side of this chart, it shows you the progression of the cell death in the brain. So we can see it starting in the hippocampus, and the blue will represent the cell death. And we'll see it moving to the frontal regions of the brain, and by the time we hit severe Alzheimer's disease, it's just kind of taking over. So some symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, we'll see that decline in language, memory, reasoning. There's going to be some behavioral and personality changes. People affected with Alzheimer's tend to act out in aggression, which I think is perfectly understandable. Think about if you couldn't remember how to do things that you used to do every day. Like you just woke up and you couldn't remember what you were supposed to do. Like you couldn't remember the names of your loved ones. So I think the aggression that they act out in is perfectly justifiable, but there's definitely some changes in the personality. That can also cause social isolation, fear of being embarrassed, depression, keeping you inside the house. That will go along with it too. Definitely one of the symptoms. Increasing difficulty completing familiar tasks. Like I already said, you wake up and you don't know how to brush your teeth and you don't know how to dress yourself. So those are some of the big symptoms of Alzheimer's that you will see. This chart also shows some other great ones. Drastic changes in personality, like I said, misplacing things, losing things. You'll leave things places, problems with abstract thinking and your reasoning, memory loss, all that stuff. So definitely some symptoms, and again, they'll progress as you go on. So the symptoms might start out being really light, and you just might think, oh, like he's having a bad day, but they will get worse over time, and you will start to notice them more and more. So some risk factors of Alzheimer's disease. People always think increasing age, like it happens in older adults, which is true, but there is such a thing as an early onset Alzheimer's disease, and we'll see that in adults younger than 65 years of age, so it could start in your 40s. And the symptoms will start out really light, but they will progress as you get older and older. Most times when in Alzheimer's disease, we will see the late onset, so people being diagnosed after the age of 65. But there are some scenarios where it will happen before the age of 65. So increasing age is a risk factor. Family inheritance, if it runs in your family, the genetics, you have it in you, definitely a risk factor. Obesity, depression, alcohol abuse, atherosclerosis, hypertension, and high levels of LDLs in the cholesterol. So all of those are risk factors of the disease. This graph I thought was actually really cool. Taught me something I didn't know. It shows you people living with Alzheimer's and their age and their race. I did not know that Hispanics were by far the most affected with Alzheimer's disease. Well, at least by far compared to Caucasians, African Americans are a close second. But I would believe this to be having something to do with the diet, obesity, hypertension, something like that, something along those lines. Also, I did learn in one of my psychology classes that depression is most prevalent in Hispanics. So that also could have something to do with it. Depression was one of those risk factors of Alzheimer's disease. And again, definitely age. That early onset would be anything 65 and under, and 65 and 74 is very, very little. Our 85 age group is almost like quadrupled that. So again, the late onset Alzheimer's disease is definitely the most prevalent that we will see. So, unfortunately, very, very sad to hear, but there is still no cure for Alzheimer's disease. People are working at it, and it's been a really long process, and we're still going through the process. However, no cure, but there are medications that people can take. Not to end the disease, unfortunately, but kind of to improve the symptoms, slow the progression of the disease, prolong your life a little bit. So the acetylcholine esterase inhibitors, excuse me if I butchered that. So what they will do is they will work to prevent the breakdown of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter that is really important in like our memory and our reasoning. So we want high levels of acetylcholine. So this medication will keep the levels of acetylcholine high, which will benefit communication between the cells, less cell death, less symptoms, slow the progression, super awesome. The N-methyl D-aspartate receptor, NMDA antagonist, again, sorry if I butchered that, is another great one. So that will work to regulate glutamate activity, and glutamate is another neurotransmitter. This one is really good in, not good, but it works in information processing and retrieval and storage and all of that. So another thing that we will see a lot in that cognitive decline. So this will work to regulate that. So less cell death, more information processing, storage that will help memory, a lot of that. Vitamin E is also awesome. It's an antioxidant. We can see it in a lot of our foods. Another thing, speaking of foods, the Mediterranean diet is a really, really great diet. And not just aiding Alzheimer's disease, but preventing it too. And that's like a lot of fish, like whole grains, a lot of fresh food, organic. So food-wise, awesome things. Vitamin E, you can just take that in pills, vitamins, like supplements. Another really good one. And of course, exercise. Exercise is, everyone knows, is just good for improving your overall quality of life, and especially when you're battling a disease. It will delay the symptoms. It will better their lives. It will increase, not increase, but it will prolong independent living. It will help them continue to complete activities of daily living, reducing risk of falls. It will aid in depression if you're feeling depressed, if that's one of the things that is a symptom of Alzheimer's disease, and a risk factor of Alzheimer's disease. That will help to prevent depression. So exercise is always, always a good answer. So this is my case study here. So we have a female. She was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. So she's already have the diagnosis. She was diagnosed at the age of 61. She's right now 68 years of age. She's a non-smoker. Her BMI is 26. It's good. Total cholesterol is 198. It's good. What we definitely want to look at is the LELs, like I stated earlier. In 112, she's fine. Her blood glucose is 91. Her blood pressure is 132/78. So we're a little bit, very slightly high. She's currently sedentary, but she's interested in a lifestyle change. And her grandfather had passed away from Alzheimer's disease. So risk factors that she has, that family history, genetics, unfortunately, that plays a huge part. She's stage 1 hypertension with that 132/78. She's currently sedentary, and she expressed slight feelings of depression. So, and things that are going against right now, but we're going to try to battle. So the exercise prescription that I would give her is aerobic, definitely, at least 30 minutes a day, 3 to 5 days a week at a low intensity. I'm thinking on the RPE scale out of 10, we're going to go for like a 3 to a 5. And definitely enjoyable activities, not only to make it fun and enjoyable, but that will help with the depression as well. Walking, gardening, cycling, and you can break it up. It doesn't have to be straight 30 minutes. You can do a 10-minute walk and then 10-minute gardening and then do light housework for 10 minutes. But definitely aerobic. Strength, I want her doing one set of 8 to 12 repetitions, 2 to 3 days per week, 50 to 70% of her 1 hour. This will be weight bearing and functional strength exercises. So like the sit to stand test or step ups, that just walking around with weights, like definitely want to do that. That will help prolong independent living so much. Flexibility, always need it. 10 to 30 second per stretch, 2 to 3 days per week, a low intensity. When I say low intensity, when she feels discomfort, I want her to stop. Static stretching, so we can do that chair sit to stand. We can just stretch while we're watching TV, anything like that. And lastly, balance. Balance should definitely be incorporated, especially when you're working with elders, to work against that risk of falling. So 2 days a week, something fun like yoga, tai chi, the stork stance, anything like that. So this would be my exercise prescription to her, to really work and help with the disease. So for more information, I have some links for you to go to. We have the Alzheimer's Foundation of America, Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation, and the Alzheimer's Association. And these will be my references. Other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And have a great day. Thank you.